I knew my marriage was over the second I opened the mailbox. Not when she told me she didn't love me anymore. Not when she started disappearing on weekends with vague explanations like girls' night or helping a friend through her divorce. Not even when our house fell silent every evening, like two strangers were living under the same roof. No, it was a plain white envelope that shattered everything. I'd just gotten home from the shop. My hands still smelled faintly of motor oil, my knees sore from crawling under a 97F 150 all afternoon. Autumn was settling into Ohio. The wind was crisp, the sky streaked with early orange. I'd stopped at the curb, like I did every day, and pulled open the rusted mailbox door. Bills, grocery flyers, some coupon for a pizza place I'd never try. Then it caught my eye, a handwritten envelope. No stamp, no return address. Someone had dropped it off by hand. At first, I thought maybe it was for me. A customer, maybe, thanking me for the break job. But then I saw the name. To Lorna. Just her first name. No last. No address. Just Lorna. My wife. We'd been married 26 years. I stood there staring at it, the wind tugging at the edges of the paper. My gut twisted. Something about the handwriting. Too careful. Too neat. The way the L looped in that cursive style that people don't use much anymore. I should have put it back. Should have left it on the kitchen counter and walked away. But I didn't. I opened it. No date. No name. Just a short note, written in blue ink. Thank you for the other night. For the warmth. For making me feel alive again. Until next time, M. I didn't breathe for a full minute. I read it again. And again. Trying to find another meaning. Maybe it was from a friend. Maybe M. was Melissa, that coworker she always talked about. Maybe it was some inside joke I wasn't meant to understand. But deep down I knew. That letter didn't read like friendship. It didn't even read like a mistake. It read like truth. Like someone had been in her arms, while I sat alone on the couch watching football, wondering why she wasn't texting back. I walked inside like I was sleepwalking. The house was quiet. Lorna wouldn't be home for another 2 hours. Client dinner, she'd said that morning, brushing past me in the kitchen, barely making eye contact. I'd smiled like an idiot, told her to have fun. I sat down at the kitchen table and placed the letter in front of me like it was a bomb. I stared at it. My coffee went cold. The fridge hummed. Somewhere outside, a lawnmower started. My mind kept going back to the last few months. The signs I had ignored. The sudden shift in her moods. How she'd started dressing up more. The way she'd angle her phone screen away when I walked in the room. The late night, client calls she'd take out on the porch in her slippers, pacing back and forth under the porch light. And the way she'd look at me, like I was fading wallpaper. Like I wasn't even there. I thought we were just going through a rough patch. Empty nest. Midlife slump. Everyone hits those. I figured it would pass, if I just stayed steady. If I gave her space. Turns out, she'd already filled that space with someone else. I should have cried. I didn't. I should have smashed something. I didn't. I just sat there, staring at that little piece of paper, letting it burn a hole in my chest. By the time she walked through the door at 8:13 p.m., laughing into her phone and smelling like department store cologne that wasn't mine, I had already made up my mind. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. First, I was going to find out exactly who M was. And then I was going to bury him. Not with fists. Not with screaming. With truth. Cold. Hard. Truth. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. Not because I couldn't sleep. I didn't even try. I laid in bed all night staring at the ceiling fan, watching it spin, listening to the soft hum as it cut through the silence. Lorna was asleep next to me, her breathing even and steady, like she had nothing in the world to hide. I didn't say a word, just slipped out of bed and headed to the garage. That space has always been mine. My workshop, my retreat. Every wrench, every socket, every label on every shelf was right where I left it. I sat at my little workbench and read that letter again under the flicker of a dusty old bulb. Thank you for the other night. I didn't know who M was. Not yet. But I knew where to start. Lorna's phone. I never liked the idea of going through someone's stuff. Felt like a betrayal of my own. But betrayal was already in the house, wearing my wife's perfume. So I justified it. I had to. She always left her purse hanging on the coat hook in the hallway. I waited until she got in the shower. I heard the water running, soft music playing from her Bluetooth speaker. Same old routine. The phone was unlocked. That surprised me. No password. Just swipe up. Almost like she didn't think I had it in me to look. She was right. Until now. I went straight to the messages. Scanned the names. Nothing jumped out. Nothing under M. No Mike or Mark or Matthew. In fact, it looked cleaner than it should have. Too clean. That's when I remembered something my buddy Dean told me years ago when he caught his girlfriend cheating. He said, they always use a fake name or delete the thread right after. Or worse, Use an app. So I looked at her apps. She had one I didn't recognize. Second line. I tapped it. It needed a PIN. That was it. My first dead end. But even that was telling, wasn't it? A second phone number app? For what? She wasn't selling stuff on Craigslist, that's for sure. I backed out and checked her calendar. She used to write everything in it, especially her client dinners, because she always wanted to remember who she was meeting and where. Last Thursday? Blank. That was the day I found the envelope. The same night she came home late, hair a little too perfect, eyes a little too shiny. There was nothing there. That was clue number 2. I put everything back exactly as I found it. I wasn't going to confront her yet. Not until I had something she couldn't explain away. Not until I could drop it in her lap and watch her face change in real time. I needed to be patient, quiet, calculated. It was strange. I wasn't even angry. Not the way you'd expect. I was cold, focused, like I was fixing a broken carburetor or diagnosing a weird rattle in the undercarriage. Just another job. The next step was work. Lorna worked 3 days a week at a medical office 2 towns over. She'd been there for almost 15 years. Everybody knew her. Everybody liked her. She was the kind of woman who brought cupcakes to coworkers' birthdays and remembered their kids' names. I called in sick to the shop and drove out that way. Didn't pull in. Just parked across the street and watched. She showed up at 9:03 in her usual scrubs, holding a coffee and smiling like everything was right in the world. She waved to someone at the front desk, hugged a woman in the parking lot. No signs of guilt. No hesitation. She was good. I'll give her that. But good isn't perfect. And that's when I saw him. A man pulled in around 9:40. Nice car. Black Mercedes. Probably mid-50s. Little salt in the beard. Business casual. Crisp shirt. Expensive watch. He didn't go inside. He waited. And at 9:58, Lorna walked out the back door, holding what looked like a folder. She leaned into the passenger window, talked, smiled. Then she handed him the folder and gave a wave. Friendly. Too friendly? I don't know. But he drove off without going in, and that was enough for me to follow. I kept back a few cars. Watched him take a turn toward the interstate. He wasn't going far. He pulled into a small law office about 10 miles out. I parked across the street and wrote down the name on the sign. Michael J. Wainwright, Family Law. M. I sat there in the cab of my truck, heart pounding, staring at that name. So that was him. The man from the envelope. The man who made her feel alive again. A divorce attorney. And suddenly, I knew. This wasn't just an affair. She was preparing to leave me. I didn't go home right away. I sat in my truck for a long time, watching people walk in and out of that law office, trying to picture which of them knew my name, knew my marriage, knew what was being planned behind my back. A few thoughts ran through my head on repeat. Was this just an affair? Or was it part of something bigger? Something calculated? I'd never been the kind of man who looked over his shoulder. I trusted people, especially her. I'd never checked her phone, her bags, her planner. I figured when you marry someone, you don't need to spy on them. But maybe I should have. Maybe I would have seen this coming a lot sooner. I drove home without turning on the radio. I wanted to hear the silence. It helped me think. Every bump in the road felt sharper than usual. Every stoplight a little too long. When I pulled into our driveway, her car was already there. I hadn't realized it was nearly 5. Time slips when you're staring down the truth. I walked in the back door. She was in the kitchen making chicken and rice, like it was just another weekday. She smiled when she saw me. You're home early, she said. I nodded, hanging up my jacket. Felt a migraine coming on. Decided to close up the shop. She turned back to the stove. Want a plate? Sure. We ate dinner like nothing was wrong. I asked her about work. She told me about a patient who'd come in 3 times for the same ear infection because he wouldn't take his antibiotics. I chuckled at the right moments. She poured us both sweet tea, kissed me on the forehead when she walked by to put her dish in the sink, and I watched her. Every movement, every word. The way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. The way she didn't ask how my day had really gone. She was running a script, keeping the story smooth. She had no idea I'd followed her. No idea I'd found the envelope. No idea I'd seen the man, Michael J. Wainwright, Family Law, who made her feel alive again. But I wasn't about to let her lead the narrative anymore. After dinner, I told her I was going out for a drive. She nodded absently, already pulling up a show on the TV. I drove 2 blocks and pulled into the old church parking lot where nobody ever parks after dark. There, with my truck idling, I pulled out my phone and called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Dean, I said when he picked up. You still have that buddy who does background checks? He laughed. What did your kid do? It's not my kid. It's someone my wife knows. The line went quiet. Then he said, I'll text you his number. Just tell him I sent you. I made the call that night, gave him the name, told him what I wanted. Anything you can dig up. Business, personal, records, marriages, lawsuits. I want the full picture. It would take a few days. That's what he told me. I said that was fine. I wasn't in a rush. This had to be done right. The next few days were strange. Lorna was more affectionate than usual, like she was trying to make up for something or cover for it. She'd come up behind me at the sink and rub my shoulders. She'd leave little notes in the garage, like she used to when we were newlyweds. Part of me wondered if she was feeling guilty. The other part of me didn't care anymore. Whatever game she thought she was playing, I was already 2 steps ahead. Then Thursday night came. I was in the garage fixing a neighbor's leaf blower when I got the call. It was the background guy. He didn't waste time with small talk. Michael J. Wainwright. Divorced twice. No kids. Got his license suspended back in 2013 for ethical violations, client manipulation. Got it reinstated after appeal. Works exclusively in divorce and custody law now. Real smooth operator, according to court records. Been reprimanded for encouraging clients to hide assets during proceedings. I let that sit for a second. So he's dirty? I asked. Not officially, but close enough to smell. That was enough for me. One more piece of the puzzle. I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat there in the garage, the smell of gasoline in the air, staring at the concrete floor. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was planning to destroy me. Take the house. Maybe the shop. Maybe even what little we had saved. But she didn't know what I knew. And she had no idea I was building a plan of my own. Not to win her back. Not to argue or scream or beg. No. This time, I was going to be the one holding the pen. And she wouldn't even see it coming. Friday morning started the same as any other. Coffee. Shower. Pulling on my coveralls. Lorna kissed me on the cheek as I headed out. Told me to have a good day at the shop. Like nothing had shifted under our feet. She still had no clue I knew. And that was exactly how I needed it to stay. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. That would only give her time to adjust, to spin her version, to lawyer up with that snake in a tailored suit. No, I needed to control the moment, the information, and the exit. That morning I opened the shop, made small talk with some regulars, and called in a favor. Dave Simmons, retired cop, now runs a private security business out of his garage. We'd worked on his '68 Charger together last year, and I knew he still had some surveillance gear lying around from his old patrol days. Need a couple motion-triggered cams, I told him. Something small, discreet. He raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. Front door or back? Both, I said. And maybe the bedroom. He gave a low whistle but nodded. I'll get you set up. That evening, Lorna was working late again. Emergency call with a patient's family, she said. Already halfway out the door in heels I hadn't seen her wear in years. She didn't notice I didn't ask a single question. I waited 20 minutes, then called Dave. He met me around back, and within an hour, we had 3 cameras installed. One in the hallway, one in the bedroom corner by the lamp, and one pointing straight at the garage entrance. All synced to a private cloud. Motion activated. Silent. It was like installing an alarm system around the last few pieces of my dignity. Saturday came and went. She was home most of the day, acting normal. Cleaning, cooking, playing the role. I didn't say much. Just nodded, kept my answers short. Every time she walked past me, I watched her like a stranger. And it hit me, she didn't even notice. 26 years together, and she didn't see the difference. That's how far gone she was. That's how comfortable she'd become with lying. Sunday afternoon, she said she was going for a drive to clear her head. That was new. No excuse. No name. Just vague. She left around 3:15. Didn't take her phone. That, too, was unusual. Almost like she didn't want anyone tracing where she was headed. But she forgot something. One of the cameras by the back garage caught her leaving with an overnight bag, one I hadn't seen her use since we went in Asheville 2 summers ago. And I knew then she wasn't coming back that night. I waited until dusk, then pulled her laptop from the living room drawer. Same passcode as always, her birth year and our anniversary. I clicked through slowly. Emails, calendars, photos. Nothing at first. Then I found a folder labeled Wellness Retreat, January. Cute name. Inside were PDFs. A draft of a property list. Bank statements. A retainer agreement with Wainwright's firm. A blank divorce petition saved under a random file name. She was already drafting the paperwork. She hadn't filed yet, but she was ready. Probably planning to serve me in the next week or 2. Probably thought she could catch me flat-footed. Spin it so that I'd come out looking like the bad guy. Unmotivated, distant, stuck in my ways. But now the playing field was even. Actually, no. I was ahead. I closed the laptop, put everything back exactly where it was. Went to the garage and poured myself a coffee from the thermos. Then I sat down with a notepad and started writing. Not a love letter, not a confession. A list. A list of every account we shared, every asset, every debt, everything I needed to move, split, or protect. I wasn't going to be one of those guys who loses the house and half his retirement because he hesitated. If she wanted war, fine. But she'd have to fight for every inch. And I'd be armed with more than just anger. I'd have evidence, dates, footage, messages, a trail. But I wasn't stopping there. I had one more move to make, the one she wouldn't see coming. I just needed to find the right moment. And if I timed it right, it wouldn't just expose her affair. It would humiliate her, publicly, permanently, not out of spite, out of principle, out of a quiet kind of justice. The kind that doesn't scream, the kind that waits, and then hits like a hammer. Monday morning, Lorna was all smiles. She came home around 9 a.m., talking fast about how she'd needed space, and drove out to a lake for clarity. Said she wanted to cook dinner together later, talk, reconnect. It was rehearsed, every word. I nodded and played along. That sounds nice. She kissed my cheek and went upstairs to shower. I watched her go without saying a word, just like she'd been doing to me for months. But I knew the truth. I had watched her, not at a lake, not finding herself, but in the arms of another man. The motion alert hit my phone at 5:48 a.m. video from the hallway cam. Her sneaking back in with the same overnight bag, same black heels, hair messed, smirk on her face. She was so comfortable in the lie, it didn't even occur to her she might be seen. That was the moment I stopped mourning. I didn't lose her. She threw herself away. And now it was my turn to move. By midweek, I had everything I needed. Bank accounts frozen. My name off anything joint. The shop, which I had inherited from my father, quietly transferred into an LLC with only me listed. I moved half our savings into a separate account under my business. All legal, all traceable. I wasn't hiding assets. I was protecting them. And that background check on her lover, Michael Wainwright, it turned up something special. A formal complaint from a previous client's husband, filed with the state board, claiming Michael had slept with his client during divorce proceedings. The board dismissed it, but the story was juicy enough. I filed it away, just in case. What I needed now was a moment, a setting, a stage. And that's when it came to me. Our anniversary was Friday, 26 years. Lorna had already forgotten. I knew that the same way I knew when a carburetor was off by sound alone. The woman who used to plan trips, make dinner reservations, hide little notes in my glove box, she hadn't mentioned a word about it. But I did. Hey, I said casually over dinner Wednesday night. You remember what Friday is? She blinked, hesitated, then forced a smile. Of course. Our anniversary. I smiled back. What do you say we do dinner at the house? Just you and me. Quiet. No distractions. She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. That sounds perfect. Perfect was exactly what I was going for. I spent Thursday prepping everything. I called her sister, Julia, the only person in Lorna's family who'd ever been real with me, and invited her for a surprise anniversary moment. Told her I had something meaningful I wanted to share. Bring your husband, I added. Might be good for Lorna to see some family. Then I called Dean, my old friend who now ran a drone photography business for realtors. You still got the good gear? He laughed. What are we filming? Just a little truth, I said. I need footage from outside the house. Quiet, discreet. Friday night around 8. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. The man owed me his front teeth from a bar fight in 2002. Friday came fast. I cleaned the house, grilled her favorite dinner, steak and rosemary potatoes, and laid out a new button-down shirt she'd once bought for me. Tag still on. She always said it made me look almost handsome. I ironed it just for her. Lorna came home around 6, her mood bright, her hair freshly done. A little too much perfume, like she wanted to feel young again. She hugged me. Happy anniversary, babe. I held her just long enough to keep up the show. You too. The table was set, candles lit, music low. She didn't notice the extra chairs, or the second bottle of wine, or the phone recording quietly on the mantel. At 7:59, the doorbell rang. She looked surprised. Who's that? I smiled. You'll see. She opened the door to find her sister and brother-in-law standing there with flowers and smiles. Oh my God. Lorna laughed, hugging them. You guys, thought we'd make it a real celebration, I said. 26 years, after all. We all sat down. Lorna poured wine. The small talk flowed. Kids, work, memories. Everyone played their part. Until I cleared my throat and said, actually, I have a little toast I want to give. I raised my glass, and everything I had planned was about to unfold. I stood up slowly, holding my glass, giving Lorna one of those soft smiles husbands give their wives when company's around, the kind that says everything's okay. She smiled back, just a little too wide, still playing her part. I looked around the table at her sister Julia and Julia's husband, Dan. Both of them were polite, curious. They didn't know what was coming, but they were about to. I just wanted to say, I began. 26 years is a long time. Lorna reached for my hand and gave it a squeeze. I didn't pull away. Over the years, I continued, we've been through a lot. Ups, downs, family, bills, health scares, empty nest. You name it. We've weathered it. Dan nodded, raising his glass. You two are one of the good ones. I nodded too slowly. That's what I used to think, I said. Until recently. Lorna blinked. Her smile faltered. You know, I said, keeping my voice steady, there's a funny thing about marriage. You can live with someone for decades and still not see them. Not really. You assume the person beside you is the same one who made vows in front of your family. But people change. Sometimes, they just stop telling you who they are. Silence. Julia glanced between us, sensing the shift. Lorna laughed nervously. What are you talking about? I turned to her. I'm talking about the note I found in the mailbox. The one addressed to you, signed by someone named M, thanking you for the other night. Her face went pale. Dan shifted in his seat. Julia sat back like someone had hit her with a gust of cold wind. I'm talking about the cameras I installed, I said. The footage of you sneaking out with a bag, sneaking back in before dawn. Mark, she whispered. Can we talk? I'm not finished. She shut her mouth. I'm talking about the fake wellness retreat folder on your laptop, the divorce paperwork, the retainer agreement with Michael Wainwright, the family attorney who, by the way, has been disciplined before for encouraging clients to hide assets during proceedings. Now Julia was staring at her sister in stunned silence. Dan just rubbed his jaw like he didn't want to be there anymore. I placed my glass down. My hands were steady. I invited you here, I said to Julia and Dan, not because I wanted to embarrass anyone, but because I needed family to witness what was really happening, to see what she's been planning, behind my back. After 26 years of marriage. Mark, Lorna said, trying to compose herself. This is not the time. It's the perfect time, I said. You brought the lies into our home. You brought another man into our story. I'm just putting the truth on the table next to the mashed potatoes. Julia's face was unreadable, but I could see the sting in her eyes. You told me you were driving to clear your head, I said. Turns out, you were just clearing out a space for someone else. Lorna stood up suddenly, red-faced. You're humiliating me. No, I said calmly. You did that yourself. All I did was press play. I picked up the remote from the coffee table behind me and clicked a button. On the TV screen in the living room, a video began to play. It was muted, no sound, but the image was crystal clear. Lorna, walking down the hallway at 5:48 a.m., tiptoeing in heels, hair a mess, holding her overnight bag. Every eye at the table was glued to the screen. Lorna gasped. Julia covered her mouth, then stood up like you didn't want to see anymore. I'm done, I said. I won't be filing for divorce. Lorna looked confused. You're not. No, I said. You are. That's what you planned, isn't it? I didn't mean. I've already moved my name off everything. The house is being evaluated for sale. The shop is in an LLC now. You'll get your half, legally. She stared at me, stunned. You can't just. I can't, I said. And I did. Silence. No yelling. No screaming. Just truth. Lorna sat back down slowly. Her shoulders slumped. The game was over. Her mask was off. I turned to Julia. I'm sorry you had to see this. But I thought it was time someone besides me knew the truth. Julia nodded slowly. No. I'm glad I saw it. For the first time in weeks, I felt something that wasn't pain. I felt clarity. Lorna didn't come home that night. Not that I expected her to. After the dinner imploded, after Julia and Dan left in stunned silence, she just stood there in the kitchen for a minute, frozen, embarrassed, humiliated. Then she grabbed her purse, said nothing, and walked out the door. Didn't even close it behind her. I stood there for a long time after she left. The dishes were still on the table. Her wine glass sat untouched. The candles flickered in the drafts from the open door. 26 years. Gone in under 26 minutes. I should have felt broken. I didn't. I should have felt angry. But I'd already burned through that. What I felt was peace. Not joy. Not satisfaction. Just a deep, calm silence. Like when a storm finally moves on and you can hear the wind through the trees again. The next morning, I woke up to 5 missed calls from her. 2 voicemails. A long text that started with "Can we please talk?" and ended with "This isn't what you think." I didn't respond. Let her sit with it. She showed up around noon. I was in the garage, changing out spark plugs on an old Corolla. She walked in like someone returning from war, shoulders down, eyes puffy, voice small. "Can we talk?" I stood up, wiped my hands, and nodded toward the folding chair across from me. "Talk." She sat down and stared at the floor. "No makeup. Same clothes as last night." "I didn't mean for it to go that far," she said quietly. "It started as just someone to talk to. You weren't present. You've been distant." I let her speak. "It wasn't about leaving you," she added. "I don't even know why I filed those papers. I felt invisible." I nodded. "You could have told me that." "I know," she whispered. "But instead you told another man." She looked up, her eyes glassy. "I messed up." "No," I said. "You chose." Over and over. Every lie. Every sneaky drive. Every look across the dinner table while you were planning to rip my life in half. She flinched. I wasn't going to take everything. You had a lawyer. I didn't file anything. But you were going to. She went quiet again. Then, softer than before, what do you want from me? I looked at her for a long time. I want honesty, but I know I won't get that. So here's what's going to happen. I stood up, walking toward my workbench, pulling out a manila folder. I set it in her lap. That's a drafted property agreement, fair and square. You get your half of the savings, half of the house proceeds. Once it's sold, you don't touch the shop. It was mine before you, and it'll be mine after. She opened the folder slowly. You've really already done all this? I've had time. She flipped through the pages. This is generous. I'm not here to ruin you, Lorna. I just won't let you ruin me. She looked up, something breaking in her face. I don't want to be alone. I exhaled through my nose. Then you should have thought about that before you handed your heart to someone else while mine was still sitting on the table. She didn't cry. Not yet, but she was close. You're not the man I married, she said softly. I smiled just a little. No, I'm better. She left an hour later, taking the folder with her. That afternoon, Julia called me. She didn't ask what had happened. She'd seen enough. But she said something I didn't expect. She's going to have a hard time facing anyone now. I paused. You feel bad for her? I feel bad for what she became, Julia said. But I'm proud of how you handled it. That stuck with me. Because I didn't scream. I didn't slam doors or throw her stuff on the lawn. I just showed the truth. And now she had to live in it. Later that evening, I got one more message from Lorna. Thank you for not destroying me. I'm sorry. Truly. I know I don't deserve another chance, and I'm not asking for one. But I hope, someday, you'll remember something good about us. I stared at the screen for a while. Then I deleted the message. Because the man she betrayed? He's gone. And the man I'm becoming? He's just getting started. Saturday morning, I put on my cleanest jeans, my work boots, and a gray button-down shirt Lorna gave me for our 20th anniversary. I didn't wear it for her. I wore it because it reminded me of who I was before all this mess began. A man who built his life with his hands and expected the same kind of effort from the people around him. At 11 a.m., I pulled into the parking lot of Wainwright & Associates. I wasn't there for a fight. I was there for peace. There was a small event being held, client appreciation brunch. I'd seen the flyer tucked in Lorna's purse last week. Hors d'oeuvres, mingling, maybe even a photo booth. Wainwright's way of building goodwill with the people he was helping divorce their spouses. Funny how they called it appreciation. All I saw was damage with a smile. I walked in like I belonged there. Buttoned up, calm. People were gathered around a table of fruit and croissants. Coffee, jazz music humming from a Bluetooth speaker. And then I saw him. Michael Wainwright. Tan, tall, polished, just like in the video I had from my camera. He was laughing with a group of women in blazers and designer sunglasses. Clients, I assumed. Divorces in progress. He didn't see me at first, but one of the assistants did. Can I help you? She asked, polite but cautious. I handed her a folder. Inside were still frames from the surveillance video. Lorna entering and exiting the house late at night. Handwritten notes. A copy of the unsigned divorce petition. And 2 printed complaints against Wainwright from previous client spouses. Give that to Mr. Wainwright, I said. Tell him Mark Eldridge said hello. She blinked. Is this evidence? Yes. I turned to leave, but paused. Oh, and you may want to suggest he stop using personal relationships with clients as a selling point. Some of us know how to make that public. I walked out before she could respond. Not because I was afraid, because I had already won. By the time I pulled out of the lot, my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I didn't answer. Then a text came through. This was unnecessary. If you wanted revenge, congratulations. I smiled. It wasn't revenge. It was accountability. Let the man who encouraged her to lie and leave explain to a room full of future clients why his reputation just took a body shot. But that wasn't even the final blow. That came a few hours later. I was sitting on the porch with a cold beer, watching the breeze push through the maple tree in the yard, when a message came from Julia. You may want to check Facebook. I opened the app, and there it was. Lorna's profile, updated just 10 minutes earlier. Taking time away to reflect. Please respect my privacy. Comments underneath ranged from confused to shocked. What's going on? I thought you and Mark were doing great. Did something happen? Then, one post down, I saw something else. A shared video from a burner account. No name, no photo. The footage I'd taken. The hallway clip. The timestamp. Lorna walking into our house like she hadn't just betrayed everything we'd built. Posted publicly. Not by me. I didn't leak it, but someone did. And once it was out there, it spread like fire. By evening, her friend group had gone quiet. A few had unfollowed her entirely. That night, she texted me again. I know it was you. I replied with one sentence. I didn't have to be. You did it to yourself. She didn't respond. Not that night. Not the next. And I didn't hear from Wainwright either. But I knew word would get around. Small towns are like that. People talk. Especially when the ones who looked perfect on the outside suddenly crack open for the world to see. And me? I didn't hide. I went to the grocery store. The gas station. I showed my face and held my head high. Because I had nothing left to lie about. She wanted control. She wanted options. She wanted to feel alive again. And now, she had exactly what she wanted. Distance. Silence. Consequences. And me? I finally had something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. 2 weeks passed. 2 very quiet, very revealing weeks. Lorna didn't come back to the house. She didn't ask to meet, didn't show up at the shop, didn't even try to explain herself anymore. The woman who once knew how to argue about anything, from where the furniture should go to how I folded towels, had gone completely silent. I guess that's what happens when the whole town sees behind the curtain. The footage made its rounds. I didn't post it, but it didn't matter. Once it hit social media, it was out of my hands. That's the thing about the truth. Once it's out, you can't stuff it back in the drawer. I overheard bits of it everywhere. At the diner, she was sneaking out while planning a divorce. Cole. At church, I heard her sister was there when it all came out. Poor Julia. Even at the shop, customer drops off a truck, leans in like we're old war buddies. You handled it like a man, straight up, no yelling, just facts. I didn't ask for any of that. I didn't want to meddle, but I won't lie. It felt good to be seen. After months of feeling invisible in my own house, those nods of quiet respect hit harder than applause ever could. And Lorna? She was still around, just not around me. She moved in with a coworker, one of the women from her clinic. Julia told me she hadn't been back to work since everything came out. Apparently, her boss encouraged her to take a leave of absence after a few patients called and saying they didn't feel comfortable seeing someone with that kind of drama. Michael Wainwright? That situation unraveled fast too. According to Julia, 2 more complaints came to light after someone shared his name in the comments of that video. Allegedly, one woman even filed an ethics complaint about undue influence during legal guidance. Whether it sticks or not, I don't know. But his days of playing knight in shining Armani are numbered. And Lorna? She didn't just lose a husband. She lost her social circle, her image, her mask. She was the woman who'd spent years perfecting the look, the perfect marriage, the clean white smile, the "oh, we're doing fine" tone she used at every backyard barbecue. Now people cross the street to avoid the conversation. Her friends stopped calling. Or maybe she stopped picking up. Even her Facebook, once full of smiling couple photos and positive quotes, went dark. No posts, no profile pic, just a name floating in silence. I didn't celebrate that. I didn't gloat. But I also didn't forget. She built the stage. She wrote the script. All I did was turn on the spotlight. Then came the divorce mediation. She showed up late, hair tied back, no makeup. She looked small, not physically, but something in her posture, like she finally realized how far the fall really was. We didn't speak much, just signed what needed to be signed, split what needed to be split. She got half the house proceeds. I kept the shop, my truck, and my name. She didn't fight. She couldn't. I had every receipt, every video, every text she forgot to delete from the iPad was shared. At the end, she turned to me in that quiet voice she used when she didn't want to be heard. I never wanted to hurt you. I looked at her for a long second. You didn't, I said. Not really. You just reminded me who you are, and who I don't want to be around anymore. She nodded, like she knew that was all she'd get from me. I stood, shook the lawyer's hand, and walked out without looking back. Outside, the air was crisp. Freedom has a temperature, and it feels like a quiet fall afternoon in Ohio, with a flannel shirt on your back and nothing left to hide from. She had made her bed, and now she was lying in it, without the career, the social circle, or the fantasy she thought would protect her. Me? I was done chasing explanations. The only thing I was chasing now was peace.